I remember the day I thought my 5-year marriage was unbreakable. The comfortable suburban home, the shared dreams, the promises we made to each other. I gave Amanda everything I had, believing our love was worth every sacrifice. Then I heard those words that shattered my world. My wife thought I could be exchanged for something better. Instead of breaking down, I made a decision that would change everything. I became the better man she never expected to lose. Before we continue with this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you have ever had to rebuild your self-worth after betrayal, hit that subscribe button. This journey might help you find your strength too. I met Amanda at my college friend Ryan's summer barbecue. She was standing by the cooler, laughing with a group of people I did not know. Her brown hair caught the sunlight in a way that made it impossible not to notice her. When our mutual friend Zach introduced us, I felt an instant connection that I had never experienced before. We talked for hours that evening, discovering shared dreams about traveling to Europe, owning a home with a big backyard, and eventually raising a family together. Amanda worked at a marketing firm downtown while I was building my career as a construction project manager. Our different worlds somehow fit perfectly together. Our dating phase lasted just over a year before I proposed during a weekend trip to Lake Tahoe. The wedding was modest but beautiful, surrounded by about 60 friends and family members in her parents' backyard. I remember looking at Amanda in her simple white dress, thinking I was the luckiest man alive. The first years of marriage were everything I had hoped for. We found a cozy 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood, not fancy but comfortable with potential to grow. Weekends were filled with home improvement projects, hiking trails nearby, or simply enjoying quiet evenings cooking dinner together. The physical and emotional connection between us felt unbreakable. I took pride in being a reliable provider and partner. My work in construction management was steady, and while not glamorous, it paid well enough to support our lifestyle. Amanda seemed genuinely happy with our life together, often telling me how much she appreciated having someone so dependable and loving. We talked about having children within a few years, once we were more established financially. Everything seemed to be unfolding according to our shared vision. I truly believed we were building something special and lasting. The subtle changes started about 3 years into our marriage. The economic downturn hit the construction industry hard, forcing me to work longer hours to maintain the same income level. Projects were harder to secure, and the pressure to perform became intense. I found myself coming home later, often exhausted but determined not to let our standard of living decline. Meanwhile, Amanda experienced a completely different trajectory at her marketing firm. She received a substantial promotion, moving to a division that handled luxury clients. Suddenly, she was attending upscale events, mingling with wealthy executives, and developing expensive tastes. The gap between our worlds began to widen. I noticed her wardrobe changing first. Designer labels replaced the casual clothes she once wore. Then came comments about our furniture being outdated, our car being too practical, our vacation plans not exciting enough. I tried to keep up, stretching our budget to accommodate her evolving preferences. Date nights at local restaurants were replaced by expensive downtown venues where a single meal cost what we once spent in a week of eating out. For our 5th anniversary, I planned a surprise weekend at a rustic mountain cabin. I remembered how she once said she loved the idea of disconnecting from technology and reconnecting with nature. I spent weeks arranging time off, finding the perfect location, and planning activities I thought she would enjoy. When I revealed the surprise, her reaction was noticeably lukewarm. She smiled politely and thanked me, but later questioned why we could not go to a luxury resort instead. She mentioned that her colleague Thomas had taken his girlfriend to a 5-star hotel in Napa Valley for their 1-year dating anniversary. The comparison stung, but I pushed the feeling aside. Around this time, I began noticing other worrying signs. Amanda started staying late at the office more frequently. Her phone became an extension of her hand, and she would often step outside to take calls. The name Thomas appeared in her conversations with increasing regularity. Thomas had connections at exclusive restaurants. Thomas knew which wine paired perfectly with certain dishes. Thomas understood the importance of proper networking. Despite my growing discomfort, I blamed myself. Perhaps I had become boring. Maybe my work stories about construction delays and permit issues could not compete with the glossy world of high-end marketing. I doubled down on my efforts, cooking elaborate meals when I had the energy, buying thoughtful gifts I could barely afford, planning activities that might impress her. Family gatherings with my side became sources of tension. Amanda would find excuses to avoid Sunday dinners with my parents or backyard cookouts with my siblings. When she did attend, she seemed distant and checked her phone constantly. My sister Lisa pulled me aside once to ask if everything was okay between us. I defended Amanda, reflexively explaining how busy and important her job had become. Through all this, I never suspected actual infidelity. I thought we were just going through a rough patch that many marriages experience. I believed that with enough effort and understanding, we could find our way back to each other. The day that changed everything started normally enough. I had taken the afternoon off work to prepare a special dinner for Amanda, hoping to rekindle some romance before our anniversary weekend at the cabin. I stopped by the grocery store to pick up ingredients for her favorite pasta dish, along with flowers and a bottle of wine that cost more than I would usually spend. When I entered our house, I heard Amanda talking in our bedroom upstairs. Assuming she was on a work call, I quietly placed the groceries in the kitchen and moved toward the stairs to let her know I was home early. That is when I heard my name. I froze on the bottom step, not intending to eavesdrop, but stopped by the tone of her voice. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, and her words carried clearly down the hallway. "Jordan is fine, but I could definitely exchange him for something better." She laughed after saying it as if discussing trading in a functional but uninspiring appliance. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I gripped the banister to steady myself as she continued speaking, apparently to her sister on the phone. "He just lacks ambition, you know. 5 years of the same job, the same routine. So boring compared to the people I work with now. Like Thomas, he really knows how to live. The right restaurants, the right vacation spots, the right everything." Each word cut deeper than the last. I silently backed away from the stairs, my mind racing. I grabbed my car keys and slipped out the front door without making a sound. I drove aimlessly for hours, replaying her words over and over. The person I loved most in the world thought I was exchangeable, inadequate, boring. When I finally returned home that evening, Amanda acted normally. She mentioned having a busy day at work, never indicating she had come home early or had that conversation. I forced myself to eat dinner and respond to her casual questions about my day. Inside, I felt hollow. That night marked the beginning of a week of quiet observation. With my eyes newly opened, I saw so many things I had been blind to before. The way she would quickly flip her phone over when I entered a room, the increased frequency of work emergencies on evenings and weekends, the growing collection of new clothes and accessories that appeared without explanation. I found receipts for expensive lunches at restaurants near her office when she claimed to be eating at her desk. I noticed how her criticism of my clothes, my haircut, even my manner of speaking had intensified. When I attempted to discuss our relationship, suggesting we might benefit from more quality time together, she dismissed my concerns as neediness. The final blow came when Amanda announced she needed to cancel our anniversary weekend due to a sudden client emergency. The cabin was non-refundable at this point, but money was the least of my concerns. What broke my heart was realizing she seemed relieved to have an excuse to avoid time alone with me. My suspicions grew stronger when my friend Derek mentioned seeing Amanda at an upscale restaurant downtown on a day she had told me she was working late. With a sinking feeling, I checked our phone records online. There was one number she called or texted dozens of times, each day, often late at night or early in the morning. I found myself sitting in our living room one night holding a hotel parking receipt I discovered in her car. It was from the Four Seasons downtown, dated during a conference she supposedly attended alone. My hand shook as I placed it back in her glove compartment, exactly where I found it. That night, I called my law school friend Michael. Without revealing too many details, I asked some hypothetical questions about separation and divorce. His answers confirmed what I already suspected: I needed to protect myself and prepare for the worst. Over the next few days, I created a separate bank account and began transferring small amounts that would not be immediately noticed. I gathered important documents and secured them in a safe deposit box, all while maintaining a facade of normalcy at home. The internal conflict tore me apart. Should I confront Amanda immediately? Should I gather more evidence? Should I try one last time to save our marriage? The man I had always been would have fought desperately to preserve what we had built together. But that man had believed in a partnership that no longer existed. 2 weeks after overhearing Amanda, I reached my breaking point. She had mentioned a client meeting downtown, but something in her voice made me suspicious. I called in sick to work for the first time in years and waited in my car a block from her office. I saw her exit the building at noon, wearing a dress I had never seen before. She checked her reflection in a storefront window, adjusted her hair, and applied fresh lipstick before entering an upscale restaurant across the street. Through the large front windows, I watched as she greeted a tall, well-dressed man with a level of enthusiasm she had not shown me in months. Thomas, I presumed. Their body language told the whole story, leaning in closely, her hand occasionally touching his arm, both of them laughing with genuine pleasure. I sat paralyzed in my car, watching my marriage disintegrate through a restaurant window. The moment she reached across the table, and he took her hand in his, was when something inside me broke completely. Yet in that moment of total heartbreak, a strange clarity emerged. I could create a scene. I could storm into the restaurant and confront them. I could beg Amanda to choose me to remember what we once had. But a different question suddenly presented itself. Why would I want someone who so clearly did not want me? Instead of driving home or into the restaurant parking lot, I found myself at my friend Nate's house. Nate had been through a difficult divorce 2 years earlier and emerged stronger. When he opened the door to find me standing there in the middle of a workday, one look at my face told him everything. "I am done," I managed to say before breaking down entirely. The weight of the betrayal, the lies, the slow erosion of my self-worth all came pouring out. Nate listened without judgment, occasionally nodding in recognition of emotions he had experienced himself. After my tears subsided, Nate asked a question that would change my trajectory completely. "What do you want, Jordan? Not what do you think you can salvage or what you think you deserve. What do you actually want?" "I want to be valued. I want to be with someone who sees my worth, even when I struggle to see it myself. I want to become someone I can respect when I look in the mirror." "Then become that person," Nate said simply. "Not for her, for you." That conversation marked the beginning of my transformation. The next day, I scheduled a meeting with a career counselor through a professional association in my industry. She reviewed my experience and qualifications, pointing out opportunities I had never considered. She mentioned an executive position at a rival construction firm that was expanding into green building initiatives, an area I had always been passionate about but never pursued. I applied for an advanced certification program that would enhance my credentials and set me apart in my field. The coursework would be intensive, requiring evening classes and weekend study sessions. Perfect for filling the hours I once spent trying to salvage a relationship that existed only in my imagination. I joined a gym and began working with a trainer 3 mornings a week before work. The physical exertion helped channel my anger and betrayal into something productive. The early morning schedule meant Amanda rarely noticed my new routine. Most importantly, I consulted with a divorce attorney and began methodically documenting evidence of Amanda's likely affair. I set up separate credit cards and bank accounts. I researched apartments in areas of town where I could envision starting fresh. All of this I did quietly, without confrontation or accusations. At home, I remained polite but emotionally distant. I stopped initiating conversations about our relationship. I no longer suggested date nights or made special efforts to please her. I focused my energy entirely on becoming a stronger, more confident version of myself. As weeks passed, my certification courses provided both distraction and genuine intellectual stimulation. I found myself engaged with the material and connecting with classmates who shared my professional interests. For the first time in years, I was expanding my social circle without Amanda as the gatekeeper. I reconnected with friends she had subtly discouraged me from seeing. My college roommate James and I resumed our tradition of monthly poker nights. My cousin Taylor and I started hiking on weekends, something Amanda had always found boring. The physical changes became noticeable first. Regular exercise and reduced stress improved my posture, my energy levels, and eventually my physique. I updated my wardrobe with the help of a personal shopper at a department store, not to impress Amanda, but because I deserved to feel good about my appearance. When I interviewed for the executive position at EcoConstruct, I walked in with a confidence I had thought lost forever. I spoke articulately about my experience, my vision for sustainable building practices, and my dedication to excellence in project management. 2 days later, they offered me the position with a salary increase of 40% over my current compensation. Amanda began to notice these changes with growing confusion. She commented on my new clothes, my more assertive demeanor, my busy schedule. I offered only vague responses mirroring the evasiveness she had perfected. When she initiated physical intimacy, after weeks of indifference, I gently declined, claiming exhaustion from my certification studies. Her confusion turned to panic as she sensed the power dynamic shifting between us. She started texting more frequently when we were apart, asking detailed questions about my whereabouts. She suggested weekend trips and date nights that would have thrilled me months earlier. She even proposed reviving our canceled anniversary cabin getaway. All this while continuing to see Thomas as my occasional discreet observations confirmed. The duplicity would have devastated me before. Now it merely strengthened my resolve to create a life where I would never again depend on someone else for my sense of worth. When the final piece of evidence arrived, ironically, it was not something I discovered, but something Amanda shared herself. One evening she came home visibly upset, eventually revealing that she had seen messages from multiple women on Thomas's phone when he left it unattended during a coffee break. Her indignation at his betrayal would have been comical if it were not so painful to witness. She turned to me for comfort that night, seeming to suddenly remember the value of a loyal partner. As she cried on my shoulder, I felt only a distant sadness for both of us trapped in a marriage that had become a hollow performance. The next morning I accepted the position at EcoConstruct. I signed a lease on a modern one-bedroom apartment downtown close to my new office. I confirmed with my attorney that all necessary documentation was in order. The time for strategic patience had ended. I was ready to take control of my narrative. When Amanda returned from work that evening, I was sitting calmly at our dining table with a manila envelope in front of me. She immediately sensed something significant had changed. She approached cautiously, setting down her purse and removing her jacket. "We need to talk," I said quietly. Her face cycled through several emotions: surprise, concern, and finally a forced smile. "Is everything okay? I heard you, Amanda. 5 weeks ago. I came home early to prepare a surprise dinner and heard you on the phone with your sister. You said I was fine, but you could exchange me for something better." The color drained from her face as she realized the implications. She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised my hand gently. "Please let me finish." After that day, I started paying attention. The late nights at work, the mysterious text messages, the hotel receipts, your relationship with Thomas. "No, Jordan, you do not understand," she interrupted desperately. "Thomas and I, we were just friends, colleagues." I smiled sadly. The denial was expected, but no longer had the power to hurt me. I had moved beyond needing her confirmation. "I do not need details, Amanda. What matters is that our marriage has not been a priority for either of us for some time. You sought excitement and status elsewhere. I focused on trying to be someone I am not to keep your interest. We have both been unhappy, just in different ways." She began crying tears that once would have broken my resolve. Now they seemed like part of the performance our marriage had become. "Whatever happened, we can fix this," she insisted, moving toward me. "I will break off all contact with Thomas. I will change jobs if necessary. Please, Jordan, 5 years cannot end like this." I slid the envelope across the table. Inside were divorce papers already prepared by my attorney. "The truth is, Amanda, I have changed these past few weeks. Not to win you back, but to become someone who will never again tie his worth to another person's opinion. I accepted a new position as executive project manager at EcoConstruct. I found an apartment downtown. I have reconnected with friends and discovered parts of myself I had forgotten existed." Her tears stopped abruptly, shock replacing despair. "You were planning to leave all this time while I was worried about us growing apart." The irony of her statement might have angered the old me. The new me felt only compassion for someone unable to see her own contradictions. "I am not leaving for someone else, Amanda. I am leaving to find myself. You wanted something better than me. I realized I deserve something better than this marriage." She moved between bargaining and anger, promising changes, then accusing me of betrayal. Through it all, I remained calm, centered in the knowledge that my decision was not impulsive, but the result of careful reflection. Before I left that night, she asked through tears, "Is there anything I can do to make you stay?" I considered the question seriously before answering. The time for deception had passed for both of us. "No, Amanda. What I need now is not something you can give me. I need to respect myself enough to walk away from someone who considered me exchangeable." Moving into my new apartment the following weekend brought an unexpected sense of peace. The space was smaller than our house, but felt more authentically mine. I arranged my belongings thoughtfully, creating an environment that reflected my values rather than compromising to accommodate someone else's preferences. My first weeks at EcoConstruct exceeded all expectations. My experience, combined with my newly completed certification, made me a valuable addition to their executive team. Former colleagues reached out after hearing of my promotion, several expressing interest in joining me at the growing company. Of course, the transition was not without pain. There were nights I questioned my decision, wondering if I had given up too easily on the life Amanda and I had built together. There were mornings I woke up reaching for someone who was no longer there. Grief does not disappear simply because a decision is right. I processed these feelings through long runs along the riverfront near my new apartment. I joined a support group for people navigating major life transitions. I started journaling, pouring out thoughts I had once kept tightly controlled. Through these practices, I began to understand that the end of my marriage was not a failure, but a necessary completion. Amanda contacted me several times in those early months. First with anger, then with tearful pleas for reconciliation. Finally, with a measured suggestion that we meet to talk. I responded compassionately but firmly maintained my boundaries. When we eventually met for coffee to discuss final details of our property division, she seemed smaller, somehow less certain of her place in the world. She revealed that Thomas had indeed been having multiple affairs, including with a senior partner at her firm. The scandal had damaged her professional reputation by association. The glamorous life she had been pursuing had revealed its hollow center. "Do you ever think about trying again?" she asked as our meeting concluded. We had history. We knew each other. I considered her question carefully before responding. "I think what we had was valuable, Amanda. I learned a lot about myself through loving you and through losing you. But I do not want to go backward. I am building something new now." The hurt in her eyes was genuine, but so was my answer. Sometimes the kindest thing we can offer someone is the truth. As months passed, I found myself flourishing in ways I never expected. My work with EcoConstruct led to speaking engagements at industry conferences. The confidence I had rediscovered extended to all areas of my life. I developed new friendships based on shared interests and mutual respect, rather than convenience or obligation. 6 months after moving out, I met Sophia at a community garden volunteering event. Our connection developed naturally without pretense or performance. I was transparent about my divorce and the lessons it taught me. She appreciated my honesty and shared her own experiences with relationships that had shaped her values. We took things slowly, both aware of the importance of building a foundation of friendship and respect. I no longer needed another person to validate my worth, which paradoxically made me a better potential partner. I could offer love from a place of wholeness rather than need. One evening, as Sophia and I walked along the same riverfront where I had processed so much pain, she asked what I had learned from everything that happened. "I learned that becoming something better is never about impressing someone else," I told her. "It is about recognizing your own value and living authentically. The person who sees that value in you should be yourself first, then anyone else worth keeping in your life." The irony is not lost on me. By saying I could be exchanged for something better, Amanda inadvertently pushed me to become the best version of myself. Not for her, but for me. And that has made all the difference. Looking back now, I cannot say the pain was worth it, but I am grateful for the growth it forced. The process of rebuilding after betrayal taught me resilience I never knew I possessed. The journey from devastation to self-discovery revealed strengths that had always existed beneath my insecurities. The early days after discovery were excruciating. The physical symptoms of betrayal surprised me: chest tightness that made breathing difficult, insomnia that left me exhausted, yet unable to rest, appetite swings between complete disinterest in food and desperate emotional eating. Heartbreak manifests in the body as surely as in the mind. But healing came gradually, first through small moments of peace. A morning when I woke without Amanda being my first thought. An evening when I genuinely enjoyed my own company. A workday when I felt confident in my decisions without seeking external validation. Friends and family played crucial roles in my recovery. My sister Lisa invited me for Sunday dinners, creating space for me to talk, or simply be present without expectations. My friend Nate checked in regularly, offering practical advice from his own divorce experience. Even casual acquaintances who became true friends through shared activities helped rebuild my social confidence. Professional support proved invaluable as well. A few months of therapy helped me untangle patterns of people-pleasing and conflict avoidance that had made me vulnerable to emotional manipulation. I learned to identify my own needs and express them clearly, a skill that continues to serve me in all relationships. Today, my relationship with Sophia develops at its own authentic pace. We communicate openly about expectations, insecurities, and boundaries. We support each other's independence while choosing to build connection. Most importantly, we both understand that a healthy relationship enhances rather than defines our individual identities. My career continues to expand in directions I once thought beyond my reach. The certification program I began during my darkest days led to opportunities for leadership in sustainable construction initiatives. I recently mentored a young project manager facing challenges similar to those I encountered early in my career. Helping others navigate professional growth has become an unexpected source of fulfillment. Amanda and I maintain minimal contact, limited to occasional emails about administrative details as our divorce finalized. I wish her well, without needing to know the particulars of her life. Forgiveness came not from forgetting the hurt, but from recognizing that carrying resentment only limited my own freedom. The most profound lesson from this experience is understanding that becoming something better is a continuous internal journey. External validation, whether from a spouse, a job title, or material possessions, provides only temporary satisfaction. True worth comes from living in alignment with your authentic self and values. If you have experienced betrayal or rejection in your own life, please remember that another person's inability to see your value does not diminish that value. Their words may wound deeply, but they cannot define you unless you surrender that power. You already are something better than what someone else might think of you. I would love to hear your stories of resilience in the comments below. Have you ever had to rebuild after betrayal? What helped you reclaim your self-worth? Please like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share it with anyone who might need to hear that they are not defined by someone else's perception of their worth. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember that your most important relationship is the one you have with yourself, and that relationship deserves all the care and respect you freely give to others.